So today I was going to do a MLS throwback video where I recap the 1999 MLS season, but instead, to continue this kind of wacky upload schedule that I've been having the last 2 weeks, I decided to do a news of the week on Sunday. Now, technically, it's not really wacky of me uploading a news of the week on a Sunday because I have done news of the week on the weekend, especially during the off season, and I even said when we get into this whole pandemic situation and this whole quarantine situation, I was going to do two news of the week every day, and that the weekend was going to be one of the episode I would do for my weekly news of the week. Obviously, I haven't been following that, and that there's been some week I haven't been doing two because of lack of news that has happened right now around MLS. And if you also look at the last 2 weeks, I remember I did news of the week on Tuesday when I usually don't do it on Tuesday and did it on Wednesday. And then if you go back 2 weeks ago when I did a throwback MLS video, I usually do it on Thursday, but I did it on Friday that time. So yeah, it's been a little bit wacky, but it is what it is in a time where things are definitely not normal. And as I said many times before, let's hope things will eventually get normal. And I'm not quite sure if this will help, but if you are thinking of looking for any kinds of sports to watch, well, you're in good luck because near the end of May, I heard NASCAR is going to be back. And sure, I know a lot of people don't watch NASCAR and think it's not really a sport. At least that is kind of something that is going to be back, and hopefully that will be sort of a sports that will kind of get this snowball rolling in terms of other sports started to come back, and eventually MLS will be the list of these American League that will start to come back, even though if they're going to be coming back playing in games behind closed door. Now, that being said, talking related to the whole COVID-19 situation, we obviously began once again talking about some COVID-19 related news before talking about something that's not related to this whole pandemic and some wacky kind of news that has happened this week. We start off with MLS players have been cleared to start individual training starting on May 6th. So the league basically announced that each of these players, if they want to do individual training, they can start doing that in May 6th. And what individual basically means is that players, they can decided to kind of just train themselves either outdoor and indoor, which I thought that was something that a lot of players has been doing ever since this pandemic has started. But I guess the league decided that it is clear that players can do that. And I think this is just kind of a beginning of potentially the league is going to be started to be a little bit relaxed in terms of restriction of what players is going to do. I'm assuming this might be a sign of the league. Next step potentially is going to end this training moratorium that is supposed to expire in May 15th, but the league can always potentially extend it. But we shall see. This is just a beginning step of them started to be a little bit relaxed in terms of restriction and trying to get things back to normal on the road to restart the season. Now, Ted Ramos have also highlighted this week that he is already preparing how he's going to approach in terms of the league potentially getting back to normal and that teams are allowed to do full team training again. He revealed that his team will actually start with the individual training as MLS basically allow teams to do that and allow players to do that right now. But in the next couple of days or maybe in the next couple of weeks, he's also thinking of potentially having a small group of players train with each other, and he's going to ask permission of MLS of potentially if that's going to be a case that his players can do. And ultimately, once another couple of weeks have gone where they train with small group each other, that's when we get back to full team training. And not only I like the idea that Tab Ramos is mentioning here, but I think this is going to be something that MLS is going to do where, once they've announced that they're going to, as I said, that they're going to start allowing players to do individual training in the upcoming days or weeks, they're going to announce that players can now actually gather with small group of their teammate, and now teams can train with small group before another couple of weeks. That's when the moratorium is going to end, and now teams are allowed to get back to full team training. So yeah, things are looking very promising right now, and let's just hope eventually when things does get back to more normal, we can have the season back. Now, FC Cincinnati have says that their construction of their new stadium will continue despite the COVID-19 pandemic, and I think they're not the only team that is building their new stadium in a couple of years that is thinking continuing to constructing their new stadium. I know Columbus have said that they were also continue to construct their new stadium. St. Louis also said that a couple of days too. But yeah, one of the thing that I think I have just heard from the news for the last couple of days is that they're relaxing a little bit in terms of this whole shelter in place situation, and that they're actually allowing business to some business to partially open and allow construction to continue. And I think since FC Cincinnati saw this, they thought that, you know what, might as well just kind of continue the construction, even though before it was kind of a little bit restricted. Now it's not restricted anymore. We might as well just kind of continue to construct the new stadium, and that it will be open on time, which I think is it next season or the season after that, when that new stadium is going to open. Either way, once it's going to be open, it's going to be a very, very nice place, and certainly their fans definitely deserve to get a new stadium soon, because let's face it, if you ever went to watch a soccer game at Dnipro Stadium, yeah, it's not a fun experience whatsoever. And I'll probably maybe think about potentially go to a game at Dnipro Stadium just to kind of experience it before they move into the new stadium. But I know for a fact that I'm not going to get like an amazing MLS experience where there's going to be perfect sightline for me to see, and there's going to be no restricted sightline, and don't have to like lean toward left or right to actually see where the action is going. But now moving away from the whole pandemic related news to talk about some news that is unrelated. And this week in another player of joining the list of all these European superstar player that has been rumored to come to MLS once they decided to kind of hang up their career in Europe. This week, it's Gareth Bale, the name that is thrown into that list, as he becomes the latest player to say that he's interested to join MLS after he's leaving to Real Madrid. Now, this isn't the first time that Gareth Bale have said that he's thinking of coming to MLS, and I know that this is definitely not the first time that we have heard her MLS team that is thinking of Gareth Bale. I'm looking at you, Inter Miami, that's been keep linking with him non-stop. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not if he does join MLS whatsoever. I mean, I've also heard some rumors saying that if he does leave Real Madrid, which look like it could be the case heading into this off-season in Europe, he actually will just stay in Europe and join another team in Europe, and that he's not going to come to MLS. But we shall see whether or not if that is going to be the case, and whether or not if he actually is going to come to MLS. And if he does come to MLS, most likely he's going to join some of those big market team. I mean, I have heard that he tends to like to golf during his off time, so maybe LA might be a suitable place to join, since they have some very decent golf course. Same thing with New York or Chicago, or even maybe Miami. I mean, as I said, they've been linking with Gareth Bale for pretty much since when they came into the league. So it will be interesting to see whether David Beckham, with his connection with Real Madrid, can lead Gareth Bale to that team, and Inter Miami finally get that big name player that they've been saying that they're going to get, but yet they still have not been able to get to this day. Now, moving away from a big name player like Gareth Bale to now talking about Zlatan. So, you know how Zlatan, ever since he left the league, not a lot of news that I've been hearing about Zlatan left the league has really been mostly positive. And one of the news that I have heard right after when Zlatan actually left the Galaxy to go back to Europe to join AC Milan is that Sebastian Lletget actually said says that he publicly criticized Zlatan when he was with the Galaxy and that he was not a good teammate whatsoever. Well, we have now got Emmanuel Insu that have joined the list of Galaxy players that decided to publicly criticize Zlatan when he was with the Galaxy. Although it's interesting that when Insu joined the Galaxy, Zlatan just left the team. So he actually never experienced Zlatan as a teammate, but he did say that he have heard from teammates that they don't really like him whatsoever in the dressing room, and that the only thing that they really like him is that he was actually really good, but he was just a annoying teammate to deal with, which I'm not surprised because knowing Zlatan, he basically throughout his career played with a knife through his edge, and that he will always try to grab all the publicity, and that if you decide to steal his publicity, yeah, he's going to let you know, and he's going to let you know in a very bad way. Which now, obviously, that brings a discussion of whether or not if this was good, the fact that these players decide to do that. And I've heard there's been mixed reaction of people saying, well, these players, they need to just suck it up in some way, and that, yes, I know they might be dealing with Zlatan, who is always known to be very egoistic, but at the end of the day, they just need to kind of suck it up and just kind of play on. And then I heard the other side of the argument saying that they actually show support of these players that openly criticizing that Zlatan was not a good teammate, and they kind of even make a comparison of the fact that, if you were, like, in this situation, if you were in the shoes of, let's say, Sebastian Lletget when he publicly criticized Zlatan, if you were in his shoe, wouldn't you also be very annoying the fact that you have to deal with a teammate that all he does is just steal all the spotlight and just openly criticize teammate and even openly yell at teammate if they decide to steal his spotlight? Either way, I'm not going to choose sides in terms of which side is the correct side, because one, I don't think there is a correct side in this, and that this debate will continue to go on. And I know from my experience, when I try to choose a side to talk about a hotly debated topic, it does not usually end up very well, especially in the comment section. So I'm not going to really pick a side in terms of which one is right, and I'll just let you decide which way you want to see this, and whether or not do you think the likes of Sebastian Lletget and Emmanuel Insu are very soft with the way that they've just publicly criticized Zlatan, and that they, at the end of the day, they just need to suck it up. Or if you want to see on the other side, where you sympathize Emmanuel Insu and Sebastian Lletget, of them, publicly criticize Zlatan that was just kind of being a piece of shit when he was with the Galaxy, and have to deal with him as a teammate. But moving on, in terms of the next news, is that Paul Arriola has reported to receive a contract extension with DC United. And if he does receive a contract extension with DC United, that is great news for DC, because he is one of the most impacted player for this DC United attack. And if they can, of course, get this extension right, they keep a very key piece in that attack that, they're definitely hoping that they can maybe keep him for a while before maybe there's a chance that he could be leaving DC and go to Europe. I mean, I don't know. He's getting up to an age where it's really now or never for him to potentially go to Europe if he decided to do. But seeing that if he does accept this contract extension, it might be something that said that he might be actually staying in MLS, and that he elected to play it throughout his career in MLS instead of going to Europe. But finally, in terms of the news of the week, Robbie Robinson win Clemson Male Athlete of the Year, and I usually don't give a lot of recognition in terms of players winning major award that is not related to MLS. However, the reason why I want to mention this is that I'm kind of surprised the fact that he actually won Clemson Male Athlete of the Year, because knowing college awards, usually like these kind of Male Athlete of the Year award goes to players that is either on a football team or on a basketball team, because in college, football and in basketball is basically the king of college sports. And knowing Clemson is a powerhouse in college football, you would have thought that the male athlete of the year would actually award to a college football player, but it's kind of surprised the fact that that isn't the case, and that it elected to give it to a college soccer player that is Robbie Robinson. But either way, it's impressive that he of course win it, and I definitely congratulate him of winning the award, and also wish him a speedy recovery because he is still dealing with the injury that he suffered on the opening weekend. And as I said many times before, I actually witnessed it in first person. In fact, I was actually just a couple of feet away from where I was sitting witnessing that injury, and I really felt bad when he actually suffered that injury, because this was a young kid that was selected in the draft and gets his chance to shine in MLS potentially before some of these big name players join Inter Miami and kind of steal his spot. And now that probably is not going to be the case because he's going to be injured, because he of course suffered that injury. And knowing if Inter Miami eventually is going to find a replacement for him, we don't know whether or not if we're ever going to mention the name Robbie Robinson and that he's actually going to get minutes with this team. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Again, not really a lot of news to report because we're just getting to a period where most of the news are kind of like these feel-good story of them talking about how teams are giving back to the community, which, you know, I know I have reported this before, but, you know, I know that if you really kind of want to read all these feel-good story, it's all up on MLS. And I definitely love how a lot of these teams are trying their best to put out these feel-good story and trying to help the community throughout this hard time. But as I said before, we will get through this whole pandemic, and eventually when things are going to be better, hopefully during the summertime, that's when things are going to be back to normal and the league is going to be restart. And however it's going to restart for the remaining of the season, I think everybody can agree that they're glad that MLS is going to be back once it's going to restart in the upcoming months. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.